Well, welcome to my channel. My name's Harrison. I am a retired truck driver with my own authority. I've done this for 51 years and just thought I would talk about some things that are required and what we need to be doing in order to become a carrier. Even if you only have one truck, you're still a carrier. You're still responsible for doing what all the big trucking companies do. But it's not that hard. It's actually very rewarding, and I think you'll find that some of this that maybe you don't know, because I learned it from the school of hard knocks, but it's been interesting. I retired in 2020, sold my equipment, and decided to become an RVer, and I travel around the country now and kind of enjoy where I delivered to, but I get to see better things than just a factory, and you know, I get to see some of the sites. But I wanted to start out with just the basics, and what I think most of you already know. You need a CDL license with air brake endorsement at a minimum. You need to have your own insurance, mostly for your truck, and you can start out being leased to a carrier. That's what I did. It's probably the best way because you get to learn a little more about how the trucking industry works, and you'll find that uh, starting out early, if you make a mistake, it doesn't hurt as bad. The problem with starting out right away with your own authority, well, you tend to, if you do make a mistake, and you're going to make a mistake, there's going to be some things that will come back. You'll mostly find that out in your 6 month safety audit that you're going to get after they issue your authority. And I think what you'll realize is that you need to pay close attention to what you're doing. You're not just a truck driver anymore, you become a businessman. Now you've got to find your own customers, your own lane that you want to run in, the type of commodity that you have equipment for. And then as time goes on, you start hiring drivers, and then you got to get an HR, or you got to act like an HR to keep everybody happy. And it gets a little more complicated, but I did it from 1984 to 2020 with my own authority. And back then, it cost $3,000 just to file for your own authority. Now you can get your own authority for $300, and that in itself is the biggest problem. I will say that uh, making it that cheap opened up the doors to a lot of drivers that I think really can't drive, or they're not able to get hired by a carrier because they have issues. The carrier can't hire them. I know on my insurance policies, they all had in the front cover that I could not hire a driver until I reviewed the insurance and went through the insurance company with them. And they had quite a bit of qualifications. The packet that was pretty good size, all the qualifications. So, you know, with that in mind, you have to remember to keep your MVR current. If you're going to look for a job, you have to get an MVR, a copy of it, so that you can take that with you. And, put on a pretty good professional look about you, and certainly have a good attitude, because as a driver, that's what companies are looking for. You're representing them when you get into a pickup place, a factory, or wherever you're going to pick up at. They don't see the company, they see you. And if you go in there with flip flops on, looking like you really don't care much, that's what they think about you handling their freight. You can't blame them. You'd feel the same way. So, with that all in mind, it's good to really pay attention to yourself. Keep your equipment nice. You'd be surprised how many people will make remarks just about your equipment. It's real important to have good stuff. You don't have to worry about it. They don't have to worry about it getting delivered. So everybody's happy in the long run. Uh, I wanted to start this channel, and I wanted to call it Baby Boomer Trucking, which goes back to, you know, the, late 60s, that's 70s, that's what our generation popped up. Uh, and now you have millennials and so many different ones, Gen Zs, and times have changed. Trucks have changed. I mean, I remember starting out, I didn't even have power steering. I didn't have air conditioning, and what was an old Japanese Freightliner. If any of you old guys know what a Japanese Freightliner was, it's square box with velvet ride suspension and a little 250 with a little turbo on it and little smoke kits of what it was. And I thought I had something, but at the same time, I was only 20 years old too. So it was a good starter. But business was tough. You didn't make what you make now, and not that the payments and that were any killer, but they were a lot back then. So uh, I just want to touch on that and try to just emphasize the importance of what it's like to be a truck driver and an independent truck driver. You become way more when you have your own authority. But don't just get your authority because you can't get hired. That's not the way to do it. And I think a lot of the immigrant drivers that come here, that's a problem they have. They don't speak English, and it's not their fault. They just don't. I wouldn't speak Spanish if I went to Mexico, so I don't go to Mexico. But at the same time, they have to realize that if you come here, you got to do it right. You got to do it the correct way, and you keep things, you know, safe. I mean, if you can't read signs and don't have a clue how to read a map or what have you, you're really going to have a problem on the roads. You get into New York City, that's something that you got to do to believe. And I know living in New Jersey, I did a lot of New York City running with 8 to 10 stops. From New York City through the Holland Tunnel, Lincoln Tunnel, up over the George Washington Bridge, all the way out to Long Island and back to the Bronx, Brooklyn. But that's how you started. That's how we learned. And believe me, it was a school of hard knocks. I mean, when you had to back into some of those places in New York City, that was something that really you didn't want to do it if you didn't have a clue. And sometimes some of these drivers that are coming here, they really don't have a clue. They look at moving on and maybe some of the old movies that looked really good. Smokey and the Bandit was funny, but in real life you have to be professional and you have to know what you're doing. When I started, there wasn't even any schools. Matter of fact, there wasn't even a CDL. We just drove with a car license. If you could drive the truck, they threw you a set of keys and said, "Okay." My first trip as a truck driver was to West New York, New Jersey, up kind of close to the New York City line, but on the left side of the water, and it had hills. I mean, you don't think New Jersey has hills, but it had hills. And I was up on Bergen Line Avenue, parallel parking against the yellow line, so that I could throw food product on a roller over the sidewalk and down into their basement door. It was just a little grocery store. That's the kind of stuff that we did. So I wanted to do this quick, short video just to get started, and that's what I want to call my channel, Baby Boomer Trucking. And my name is Harrison, and I really would like that if you could just subscribe. There might be some interesting things that we can talk about, and I'm going to go much farther in depth in what it takes to get your own authority, how you should go about doing it if you want to do it, and I highly recommend it. But if you think you can find a shipper, somebody that it's good to have a shipper before you even do it. But I think most of the guys from that age era, they know. I mean, they came from the school of hard knocks. And, the young guys today, they're pretty sharp. They're techie, and that's something that you're going to need. So things have changed. Well, thanks for listening, and I'm going to catch you on the next trip, which might be a little more involving, but it'll be interesting. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye bye.